I'm Rob.
I'm Nate.
And I'm Melinda.
And welcome back to Rob and Nate Record a Podcast with, I think we can no longer call her a special guest. I think we should now just refer to her as a reoccurring guest in my wife Melinda. And today's movie, we're hearkening back to the origins of our podcast.
Our very first full episode was Halloween 1978, which we recorded last October.
Yep.
We thought it might be fun to see if we can make this kind of a tradition to do entry in the Halloween saga franchise every year for as long as we do this.
Yes.
Or run out of Halloween movies.
As long as I won't watch the Rob Zombie version. Sorry, not my thing.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
Anyway, so yeah, we tonight watched the 1981 movie Halloween. Halloween 2, sorry, correct. Still starring Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. Donald Pleasance reprises his Sam Loomis role. Dr. Loomis, great job in that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure who else. Lance Guest is Jimmy. Pamela Susan Shoop as an early Karen.
A very early.
Hunter
Karen.
Von Leer.
Yeah, as Gary Hunt. There's numerous people we'll mention as we go. I was trying to see Cliff Emick is Mr. Garrett. I was trying to see if I could see who played Michael Myers.
You may be hearing some dog chewing noise in the background.
Yep. Scout's here. Just wanted to say hey.
Tony
Moran.
that's the archive stuff. That's the original footage. Anyways, we'll get into some of that later, but yeah.
An interesting thing about this viewing is this is a first viewing for all three of us.
Yeah.
Yep.
And which leads me jumping into where I was going. First reactions. What did you guys think of this? What are your early reactions to this?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Was
I
that
didn't think
terrible?
I did not think it was bad. I thought it was
No,
good.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. We all liked the original, or Nate and I liked the original Halloween. Yeah, I thought this was good. It's interesting to compare it kind of to the original Halloween, which Nate was the only one to rewatch the original Halloween in close proximity to this. Mm-hmm. How do you think it held up compared to the original?
You know, one of the things I liked about this film, I have some problems with the film, I'm sure we'll get into.
Yes.
But for the most part, it seemed a very logical continuation of the original film. I liked the pacing and the fact that it's not in real time, but there are segments of it that have this near real time sense. Things are not in a hurry to get where they're going. You have the sense of the long night. You have the sense of the community starting to absorb and become aware of what has happened.
Some of that's almost kind of funny in the timeline, but it is nice to see that.
How late does this movie start? How late at night does the last movie end? I think that's a...
I
thought it was early.
I got the sense that we're probably around 10 o'clock at night at the
when
beginning
this
of
starts.
this film.
Yeah, I think so. I think somewhere between 10 and 11, but probably closer to the 10 o'clock side because movie 3 of the triple feature...
Yes, we found out the triple feature...
It hasn't started, though, yet.
Yeah, the triple feature is mentioned in the first film, and we see that the first film in that Dr. Demento horror marathon on the local TV was The Thing, followed by Forbidden Planet, and then the last film, which we see the beginning of in this, is
Night of the Living
Night
Dead.
of the Living Dead. So those are all roughly 2-hour movies, so we can kind of piece together the timeline of events in this and the previous film based on the running times of those films.
Yeah.
Well, and she's still babysitting those kids. She sends the kids out
Well,
of the
it
house.
starts at the end of the previous movie, so
Right.
that's all there. Yeah.
And the other thing was the kid who was in the mask. Spoilers, sorry y'all. The one with the car crash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They say, oh, he was at the party. He left around 10.
Oh, I missed that. Good catch.
And so by the time they catch up to him, it's around 11. And they're like, we haven't seen him since 10. It's 11. What happened to him? And that's the kid who saw on the autopsy
that
table.
kid is named Ben Tramer, who is referred to in the original film as the guy that Laurie likes, but is never shown in the original film, who ironically perishes in a mask of the same type that Michael Myers has been wearing.
And then is a pancake al dente, very macho.
Yeah, he gets
between a police cruiser.
He gets hit by a car
bus.
into a bus. Yeah.
Super flambe.
Which explodes.
Super flambe.
Yeah.
So we should very briefly talk about kind of how this film picks up. So at the end of the last film, Loomis shoots Michael Myers. He falls off the balcony, which we see in a different angle in this film from what we saw in the original film.
That's the beginning of the issues with this film. They alter it so in the end of the original Halloween, Loomis, after he shoots him and Myers falls off the balcony, Dr. Loomis walks out onto the balcony and looks down into the yard on where Michael Myers should have been, but Myers is gone. This time, in this version, because they start with the opening.
I don't think that's a continuity problem. Because I think he looks down, he sees that Myers isn't there, so he runs down the stairs, looks again.
No, in this one he walks down the stairs and walks outside with shocked to find that Myers isn't there.
I must have missed that, but that's not how it registered in my mind.
Because I thought the same thing. Like, he looked down, saw he was there, then he goes downstairs after checking on Lori, and he goes outside and Michael Myers is gone. So okay. It's been long enough, disclaimer, it's been long enough that I don't remember the end of the original. Plus, I'm pretty sure I had a blanket over my head, and I'm pretty sure I was covering my eyes.
Well, they showed you the end. But
I know. When I saw it the first.
But anyway, Mike Myers is shot, and the next thing you know, he's gone.
Yeah.
And so the events continue, literally, this movie starts 2 minutes before the last movie ends.
Yes.
And I liked that a lot.
It was very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how this holds up in terms of the franchise because, of course, again, this is a spoiler podcast. This is the only Halloween film that does not take place strictly on Halloween.
That's true. This is November the 1st.
Yes.
Well, most of it turns into November the 1st,
yes.
Right?
Yep. But all of the other Halloween films are on Halloween.
So this film was not directed by
John Carpenter,
but
it was written,
produced, and co-wrote this again with his partner, in more than one sense of the word at the time, Deborah Hill. But it was directed by a man named Rick Rosenthal. What can Rob tell us about Rick Rosenthal?
Also directed a show from the 80s called The Bad Boys, Life Goes On. Oh, he's been doing stuff for quite some time.
Looks like a lot of it's TV.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Guillotine, a 1982 Lost in Translation, which was a TV thing.
Code of Vengeance. Ooh, Ruskies. 1987.
Hard copy.
Distant Thunder, 88. Nasty Boys, 1989. Some episodes of Life Goes On.
I was going to say two seasons of that.
Mob Wife. An episode of a show
called
Mob Wife. An episode of The Practice. An episode of Roar. A show called L.A. Doctors from 98.
Ooh, Law and Order SVU.
Strong Medicine. Some Providence.
St. Jordan.
Oh, Halloween Resurrection.
Oh.
So that's later.
That was in 98.
2002.
2002.
Early
okay.
2000. Interesting. Very different filmography. A lot of stuff.
Smallville.
Well, he was an actor too, so he's done all the things.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that I had a story about where the mask came from.
Yeah.
So the mask that was used in the original film was purchased at a hardware store, something like that, for like $2. And it was a Captain Kirk, William Shatner mask that they painted white for effect, and it became iconic in and of itself. But there is a reason why the William Shatner mask exists. Now, I suppose it would make sense that there would be a market for a Captain Kirk mask, but the reason those were made is because William Shatner starred in a different horror film in 1972-1973 called The Devil's Reign. And in that film, they had to do a special effects shot where it looked like his face was melting. So they had to make a cast of his face. And so they had this cast of William Shatner's face, and the decision was made, let's just make Captain Kirk masks.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, more esoterica.
I found in the trivia section of IMDb talking about the mask differences in its appearance. This is the exact same mask that Michael Myers wears in the original, but it was repainted and modified. Well, for the original. It looks different in this film, though, because the paint had faded due to a couple reasons. First, Nick Castle, the original Michael Myers, kept it in his back pocket during shoots. Also, Deborah Hill kept the mask under her bed for several years until the filming of Halloween 2, causing it to collect dust and yellow because Hill was a heavy smoker. The mask appeared whiter because Dick Warlock, who is the
Michael Myers.
the second Michael Myers, is shorter and stockier than Nick Castle, so the mask fit his head differently. As the producers thought this would be the final sequel in the series, they let Warlock keep the mask, the scalpel, the boots, jumpsuit, and knife used in the filming. When they decided to revive Michael in Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers from 1988, the producers realized they'd made a mistake and never again gave props out to cast and crew.
That's funny.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen Halloween 3?
I have seen bits and pieces of Halloween 3.
Okay.
You've seen some of the other subsequent sequels,
Just
right?
bits and pieces.
Okay.
I've seen either Resurrection or H2O, so I've seen much later versions. Much later.
Yeah. But in this film, we see Laurie taken out of the house. She's taken to the hospital. Michael Myers is in the neighborhood. He takes a knife, kills someone else in the neighborhood, who we never see that discovered.
Yeah.
Though we see most of the other kills discovered. That was also when he steals the knife. That's also when we discovered the third movie in the triple header.
Actually, they find the bodies because one of the cops says there's 3 more bodies over on this other street.
No,
We
but
just
that's
found them.
the house.
That's from the original Halloween.
See, that's Laurie's 2 friends and the boyfriend of the one.
And then I thought they said there's 3 more bodies after that, and it was the old couple and the woman.
No, I don't think
they
the old
start
couple
at the
was
house where Laurie's at, and then they found the bodies from the original one. They don't mention the girl that he kills after he steals the knife.
And I thought he killed the old people too, but I guess
No.
he doesn't.
No.
Okay.
He just stole their knife.
Okay.
Yeah, because they report it, and that's how they know that he's got a knife again. But Laurie's taken to the hospital. You know, we meet Jimmy. You know, we meet some people who are. It's very obvious that they're going to be dying.
Yeah, most of the film is set in the hospital.
Yeah.
Mike Myers figures out where to go, and gradually stalks down the night crew.
Well, but before that, we had some shots that Nate really enjoyed from like a strip mall, including a 1980s kid carrying around a boombox.
Yeah.
And as Nate put it, rocking the local news station.
Rocking the local news station because they have to get some audio in there to explain them. The media is really a part of this film, where it's not a part of the original film.
No, not at all.
Because we're seeing the natural progression. We saw the big news story, and now that story is being covered.
I have to ask about the little kid at the hospital. Did he bite his tongue? Was
You're
that
right.
what it was?
That's never paid off.
Yeah, it feels like there's a deleted scene or something.
It was
because
weird.
It's very distinctly set up.
Yeah.
But it's never really paid off.
No, and it doesn't.
I mean, you see him leave.
Uh-huh.
But you don't ever, you don't see the doctor
like Nate
go
said,
in
it must
see
be
him.
like the tongue or something, because he leaves and he's having trouble talking.
Yeah.
Like he's got one of those tongue bandages.
And is it just like a timing thing to kind of let you know how long she's been there?
I don't know. Like Nate says, there must probably be a deleted scene because we don't see the doctor's death either. But presumably the doctor's killed in that timeline of, when he's taking care of the kid.
Right.
You got to really admire Mike Myers as he's very efficient. And he's very smart, and he thinks like he cut all the tires in the parking lot. He's really planning this out.
We also never see the nurse that he drains her blood. We don't see that take place. We see the blood draining.
Yeah, but I don't think that's necessary. Nor do
Yeah.
I think the doctor's death was needed.
No. Which is why it would have been cut.
It's kind of. I'm not sure they were even filmed.
Who knows?
But I like the sense you get of Mike Myers is doing shit the entire time this movie is progressing. You're not seeing everything he's doing, but you
see
run
the
across
evidence of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The after effects.
Because the telephone wire gets cut, and then he's out in their shed area, cuts all those locks,
Kills the
goes
security
into all
guard.
the things,
Yeah.
and eventually kills the security guard after our jump with the cat and the blood and all the things, whatever. I was annoyed
The
by
cat
that one.
cut was kind of weird. The cat jump scare.
Yeah, but Mike Myers starts killing people in the hospital, trying to make his way to Laurie.
Okay, so you mentioned the people we know are going to die. Specifically, the ambulance driver, who's a jerk.
Yeah.
We all saw it coming. When you say damn hell, shit, and the F-bomb in a movie, in a horror movie, that's one of the rules. It means you're breaking the commandments, and so you've got to die. That's all.
Of course, a reference to the Scream franchise.
Sorry, I watched that a lot.
I want to take a moment, since we're more or less on the theme, see if we can name everybody who was killed in this movie.
Oh.
Before we do that, though, I want to just briefly recap who was killed in the first movie, so we can keep a Mike Myers kill count.
Okay.
So in the original film, he kills his sister Judith Margaret Myers in 1963, which goes to prison, so there's one.
Yep.
He kills the mechanic that he steals the
Jumpsuit
from, so there's 2. This kill count online counts the stray dog Olivia he kills and Lester the Wallace's dog. I'm not going to count them, they're dogs.
No, gotcha.
He kills Annie Brackett, who's the one of the friends of Laurie.
Yeah.
Is that the blonde one?
That's the cheerleader one.
Cheerleader one.
Kills Bob Sims, who's
Boyfriend?
boyfriend of Annie.
Okay.
Kills Linda van der Kloek, the friend who's the daughter of the sheriff.
Yeah.
So that's 5 people killed in the first film.
Okay.
So in film 2, the first person he kills is Alice Martin, who's the neighbor.
The
Who-
young girl who looks like Lori.
Kind of, yeah. So
Oh.
she's the one that when Mike Myers is running around after he escapes and he steals the knife
The
from the old
knife from
couple.
the old couple.
She lives next door. She hears a scream from when the old lady determines, oh, there's blood in my house and my knife's been stolen and I just heard about the crazy guy on the news.
Yeah.
And so she goes out and kind of like, are you guys okay? I'm not hearing anything. Go back to the house. Call my friend. So she gets killed. So that's 6. Number 7 is Ben Tramer, the boy that Lori liked and will not be taking to prom later.
But hold
later
on,
that day.
he's not killed by Mike.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah, he's killed in the car
He's
accident.
killed by
You're
the
right.
cop.
You're
he gets
right.
hit by
Yeah.
a car.
That's not a legitimate count, so we're down to 6
We're
again.
still down to 6. Welcome, Michael Myers.
We have then a Deborah Lane, is one of the nurses, I guess.
She's, yeah.
Throat slit with a butcher knife, so that's 7.
Yep.
Mr. Garrett, the security, guy,
guard.
Security guard.
hit in the head with a claw hammer.
Oh,
Yeah, that was great.
I
terrible.
wanted to make several different puns.
Well, but then
there.
later on, he's hanging without the hammer.
That's true.
Well, and he strings him up, right? Which is unnecessary
That's what I was saying. He's hanging down
Yeah.
later on in the film.
by a utility cord.
Mr. Garrett stopped, because it's hammer time.
Oh my gosh.
My heavens.
To the man with a
What?
hammer, everything is a nail.
Oh, I was gonna say Michael Myers nailed it.
And they nailed it. Yeah. There's a lot of humorous potential there. And so that's 8. Number 9 is Bud.
Yep.
We hate Bud the ambulance
And
driver.
Karen.
He's
We
a,
do
he's
not like Bud.
a-ho. His number 10 is his nurse girlfriend, Karen Bailey,
Yep.
Poor Karen.
who is drowned and scalded in a boiling hot tub in the therapy room.
With her
Though Michael Myers'
boobies
hand
out.
seemingly is fine.
Yeah. And when we so Bud and Karen decide to sneak.
That's
in.
our scene of gratuitous nudity.
gratuitous nudity
Yes.
scene. Let's sneak in there. Let's make out, and when
Including as he's drowning and scalding her,
Yeah.
repeatedly pulls her back out to.
But when
yeah.
when she removes her shirt, I'm like, oh, I know why she was cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Poor Karen.
pretty clear. So that's 10. Number 11 is Dr. Frederick Mixter. So Mixter's a weird
Yep.
name.
So I want to know
That's
if
the drunk
Mixter
doctor.
dies before the couple who are doing it, or after.
We
the
don't
couple who
know.
are doing it.
It's not shown in the
Yeah, it's not
timeline.
shown.
I was just curious.
So that's 11.
Yep.
12 is Nurse Janet Marshall injected with the air bubble.
Yep.
In the eye.
That was unfortunate.
Number 12 is Nurse Virginia
13.
Alves. 12, 13.
13.
Let's see. 11, 12, 13. Okay, yeah, this is 13. Virginia Alves, blood drained, severed IV line. She was kind of the...
Sanguinated. She was sanguinated.
She was not the most pleasant head nurse.
No.
Yeah.
She's
She's very bad at her
13.
job.
She definitely, you could see that one coming. But when he cuts the lines and she's like, oh, we'll take care of it, I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate. She's gonna die.
Number 14 is Nurse Jill Franco, stabbed in the back with a scalpel.
And lifted off of her feet.
Lifted off of her feet, yeah.
Poor lady.
I almost thought she was going to make it.
That's
For
okay.
half a second.
And number 15, Marshall Terrence Gummel, who we kind of liked Marshall Gummel.
I
Yeah.
know. He was kind of BA.
Yeah, because he went with the flow.
Yeah. he was
Oh,
just
you're gonna draw a gun on me, Loomis, and make me go back to the hospital because you made a connection in your mind. I'm gonna let you do it.
And then he pulled a pretty gnarly J-turn. Just saying.
Yeah.
He took care of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So 15. So at the end of Halloween,
Now, do we count Loomis though?
No, he
See,
blew himself
yeah.
up.
Loomis, which we'll I'm sure get into.
Yeah.
in a little more detail here. Weird. So this is the film in which they. This is my big problem with this film. It doesn't make the film irredeemable, but it's probably not what I would have done. So I liked the idea that the fact that Laurie was being stalked by Mike Myers was simply a coinkydink. It's because he saw her going to his boyhood home to drop off the key because her realtor father was going to be showing the house.
Right.
And so I like the idea it was completely random. That's scarier to me. But this film decides, it's a major spoiler, that the reason why he was really after Laurie is Laurie, unbeknownst to Laurie, is the younger sister of Mike Myers, who was 2 at the events of the original film and who was adopted by the Strodes, family friends of her parents, who died 2 years after the incident of the original film.
Yes.
So
she would have been 4 at the time she was adopted.
Clarifying question. Did the Strodes die in a car accident? Did he kill them?
Well, the Myerses is not explained.
I wondered about that.
Nor is it explained why they had not been able to get in touch with Laurie's adopted parents, the Strodes, over the course of this film.
Yeah, that's true.
She also didn't.
They just haven't made it back from the party.
Oh, well, so they have those. She has those dreams, those recurring dreams, right?
That appears to be like recovered memories.
Yeah.
Well, in some sense, it's actually kind of like a payoff of the original film. That the reason that he fixates on Laurie is he recognizes her when she drops the key off at the house.
Yeah, but at the same time.
Yeah.
I wonder if well, I mean, they're building it to be he fixates on her because she's his sister and he recognizes her. Or she looks like the sister he killed, and so therefore he fixates on her, right? I feel like all of the first people to die look the same. They all are brunettes. They're all young girls.
Well, he kills a blonde or 2.
Yeah, there's some blonde. Like some of the...
but I just mean like in the beginning of this movie, he kills a girl.
Well, he obviously has some kind of psychological sex hang-up.
Well, and just to clarify one thing you mentioned earlier, Melinda, the Myers wouldn't have been killed by him because he's institutionalized after the original incident. So when they die 2 years after the original incident from the original film, he's institutionalized.
It does kind of make you interested in a prequel. Like, I would like the Dr. Loomis story. Like, if they were to make an additional... Like, I want to know about all the time that Loomis spent with this kid and how his opinion of the kid... Like, that could be made as a movie. Well, because
he mentions that he spent, like, 15 years trying to figure this out.
That could be made as a movie that's not necessarily a horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
it could be made as a kind of a psychological portrait.
And does that kid sit in the place with the mask on all the time? Like, I would want to know that.
And see, another thing that's weird about this is, so they find additional crap that he's done in the school.
Right.
Including writing on the wall or on the chalkboard in what looks... Samhain, which is a reference to, it's a Celtic word for a god of death.
The god of death. And it's actually a festival.
And the Festival of the Dead.
It's the Festival of the Dead.
So, we have been informed that Mike Myers, institutionalized at the age of 6, basically sat in a room for 15 years. Apparently plotting this in great detail in his mind. How does he have this esoteric knowledge of Celtic myth?
This would be a good question.
That is something that could be addressed in the Loomis movie.
Especially, like, I didn't even learn about Samhain, which is the prequel to Halloween. Like, all of these ideas about Halloween...
Which is what they could call the Dr. Loomis movie.
Correct. All of these ideas about Halloween come from Samhain. The Druids were afraid of ghosts and spirits coming back to haunt you, and so they would do all of these special things to try and stop them. Like, they would carve vegetables into lanterns. The jack-o'-lantern didn't come around until much later, but this idea of Samhain, that's the original festival that becomes Christianized into Halloween later.
I did develop in my mind a theory about how Mike Myers is familiar with Samhain.
Oh, I'm excited.
So he sits around all day in the institution. The staff's become pretty comfortable with him. They even talk about that a bit in this film, that they were able to be taken by surprise because they thought they knew him and they weren't expecting this. So like one would do with plants, probably a good idea to talk to the boy periodically throughout the day, right? So you got to try to keep him mentally stimulated in some manner. So I have this image to me of a grad student who's like, well, I'm supposed to talk to this kid, but I'm also supposed to do my report on Celtic myth and death festivals. I'll just read my college level textbook to the kid because, I could use that. I could use that.
He's clearly got a high IQ.
Yeah.
Nate, maybe you need to start writing the sequel.
I need to start
the
writing the
prequel.
Loomis movie.
Yeah, you really should.
Yeah.
That would make money.
It would.
Yeah, but he's got to have a high enough IQ. Like, he's smart enough to know to slash all the tires and the gas tanks. He's smart enough to know to cut the telephone line. Like, he clearly has thought this through enough. Like, if he was just on a killing spree, it's one thing, but he's put time and energy into this.
Yeah, not particularly realistic.
Yeah.
No. Especially in the given time. Even in an 8-hour evening, there's not enough time for all of this.
So that twist, I saw like a title of a video on YouTube that said Halloween, the movie that made a franchise. Halloween 2, the movie that made a franchise. So this is where they take their original standalone and they evolve it into something else. That at that time they made it, they didn't even intend this to be going any further than it went. But it's where probably the bulk of the mythology originates from, and that gave them enough stuff to expand this into a franchise that is still going. Though its chronologies are weird, certain films treat other previous films as canon, and others don't.
Or only treat some as canon.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of frayed timelines
Yeah.
In the Halloween family tree.
And there is, I feel like, in the later movies, it talks about his parents, and it talks about the sister that he killed originally. I think in the the fifth one, he's got a niece. I don't know where she comes from.
And this,
Again, I don't know all of the things. I've never watched all of them all the way through. I watched the first Jason movie, I watched this, and I watched the first Freddy movie, and I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I've gotten the basis for all of these movies.
This is also the film that really makes him overtly supernatural.
Yeah.
Which there's some room for doubt in the first film, but this film, he's shot a dozen
11 times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
11
shoots him
times.
6
Well,
times.
and then Laurie
5
shoots
times.
him 2 more times.
So really 13 times.
And one of them is through the eye, which is why he can't see.
I thought it was both eyes, because he was bleeding out of both eyes.
Well, at least one of the eyes, but yeah.
Eye holes, at least.
Yeah.
And then he's burned.
Yeah, he's blown up by Dr. Loomis at the end. He just keeps going like the Energizer Bunny, so they sneak him into a room full of gas. They let the gas out. Dr.
They're in the
Loomis makes
surgery
sure-
and they just start turning on oxygen and ether bottles.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Loomis pulls all the hoses off the walls so that everything's going full blast.
Gets Lori out of there, and then once she's gone, he blows them up.
Yeah.
Presumably ending both characters, but not really. Satisfying ending. I want to go back though. Did you guys like the twist? Did you like that they were brother sister?
I didn't necessarily object to it. It did tie some things together from the first movie into the storyline of the second movie. I think you could take it or leave it either way.
I liked it. It gives it gives him a reason to be there, as opposed to just the random psychopath who's decided to go after a bunch of people in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Well,
gives
he's
it
not. He's after her still,
Right.
but
it gives it a backstory, which is to me is nice. Ties it up. Lori's foster parents or the
adoptive
parents, when she starts remembering, well, I'm not your real mom. Wow, woman.
Yeah.
This girl has already been through enough. You need to settle down, is what I wanted to say to her. But that is all.
Well, it makes you wonder why her adopted father would send her to that house to drop off that key.
Right.
Given the history, it's
Given
like
that, wouldn't she remember?
I would just because this is something that
That's
wasn't
true, I hadn't thought of
planned
that.
when they wrote the original film. This was not a
Exactly.
twist that they
I was
planned.
gonna say, and
Yeah.
they only planned to make one. You could kind of tell.
Well, that kind of leads me into one of the items of I wanted to read from the trivia section of IMDb. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill originally had no interest in making a sequel, as they believed the original Halloween film was a standalone movie. When the studio offered them more money to write the script, Carpenter took the job so he could earn back what he believes he was owed at the time. Carpenter had seen little earnings from the original movie, but later admitted that he received a significant back-end salary later. However, the script was not forming out as well as he thought, and he has personally stated that the only thing helping him through the screenplay process was a 6-pack of Budweiser every day, which led to what he believes is an inferior script and bad choices in the movie's story. He later called Halloween 2 an abomination and a horrible movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did like the first one better.
Yeah, I don't think you can't. I mean, yeah.
You can't
better.
compare them.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like saying Star Wars and Star Wars 2 or whatever, 4 and 5, whatever. You can't compare them. Like, there's no way to compare them and say one is better than the other.
5 is better.
And I disagree. Moving on. But I think you can't really compare them. I think I liked the first one. I thought it was well thought out, well done. When she goes into the closet, I was screaming and I was very upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear something else interesting about how Dick Warlock got the part of Michael Myers?
Yeah.
So Dick Warlock, in order to get the role of Michael Myers, has revealed that as he passed by a room, the Michael Myers mask was sitting on a table. He put on the mask and walked into Rick Rosenthal's office and stood there. After Rosenthal continually asked him who he was and he didn't reply, he took off the mask and asked if he could play Michael Myers.
I want to know if Rick Rosenthal was upset about all of this.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You're a creepy kid. You can be in my movie.
Yep.
So when was this originally? 81, right?
81.
81 is when this was released, yeah.
So I just find this so fascinating that in the 80s we start seeing these movies about serial killers, right? And that's after all of these serial killers of the 70s, right? Ted Bundy, Dahmer, all of those things. So I always find it fascinating that we start getting into the horror genre in the 80s as like, I don't know, some weird, unconventional moment.
Cultural hangover.
Yeah, to come back to that and be like, oh my gosh, there are things that go bump in the night and you should be worried. And I feel like anyway, I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting.
How do you guys think this film fared in the theaters?
Probably very well.
I would imagine, because it was later, right? Because the first one was 78.
78.
So we're 4 or 5
We're
years?
We're 3 years later.
3 years. So yes, well, I assume it did well.
So this had an estimated budget of $2.5 million. It had a opening weekend domestically of 7.4. 7.4. You want to guess on its gross? Domestic gross?
$45 million.
25.
Oh, okay.
That's
a lot.
You know,
100%.
so basically 10%.
Yeah,
you know,
that's 10 times.
10 times what they invested
what it
into
did.
it. But that's not as much money as the original, but it is still the highest grossing
sequel.
horror film of 1981.
What were the other horror films?
I don't recall off the top of my head. It was one of the,
probably the Friday the
13th.
13th
The
part
first
2.
I think, it was the second
Because
Friday
the first
the 13th.
one came out
I
in
know was one
1980.
of them.
Oh, okay.
But there were several horror films released in 81, and this one was the one that did the best.
A fun thing, potentially, to search on YouTube is Siskel and Ebert, at that time doing their show At the Movies, the PBS-ish version, later, of course, became a syndicated show. They did an entire episode basically decrying these type of movies. They said, well, Halloween 1 is great. We like Halloween 1 a lot. But all these copycats and how misogynistic they are and
they are not wrong.
yeah, and it's kind of interesting to see that just how really opposed they were to these movies, and I'm sure one of the reasons is because they were forced to watch all of them because they were doing the film critic thing, and so something like that, I could see you being more upset about it as a film critic than the average viewer because you have to watch all of them, and you don't like them.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me, actually, if you think back to all of these horror films, all of the bad guys are chasing women. They're not generally chasing boys.
Well, that's also true of actual serial killers. I mean, they tend to be more mass shooters.
Not necessarily. Well, Freddy was an equal opportunity killer. Anybody who fell asleep. But, Jason
would be equal opportunity.
Yeah. again, it's the
But the
cardinal
iconic
rules,
images,
right?
are the girl being chased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is misogynistic. And, I mean, you always have to have the boob shot, right? Like, you have to have the boobs.
Gratuitous nudity.
Yeah. Again, as I mentioned during the movie, we don't see any penises. I don't understand.
I think that's a function of the MPAA.
So what was this originally rated? R?
No, this is
This is rated R.
Yeah.
If you throw in a penis, isn't it still rated R?
I don't believe so. I think that's when you start getting into
NC-17.
or X. Yeah.
And of course, the
I don't
standards for
recall
this
for
change
sure.
over time.
Yeah.
Right.
That has changed, but I believe at that time, if you showed a penis, it was very different than showing breasts.
I don't understand.
How would you guys rate this film?
I'm going to give it 3 stars.
Out of
Out of
five?
4?
4.
Well, we do the both. We do the 4-star scale and the
I would
10-star
give it
scale.
on the 10-star scale 6.
I agree with Nate's 3. I'll probably also agree on the 10 scale. Wow. Nate, look at us agreeing
not
on
bad.
stuff.
We're
That's
kind of
weird.
a little bit flipped on our scales a little this time. I was only going to give it 2.5 on the 4-star scale, but about a 7 on the 10-star scale.
Interesting.
So,
Why did you give it more on the 10-star than on the 4-star scale?
well, to me, a 2.5-star film is somewhere in that 6 to 7 range. I mean, it's not as good as the original, but it's okay.
It's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And while I do have some issues with the basic way they took what became the franchise, I thought that this film, the way it developed for the most part, not necessarily the backstory stuff, but the way events occurred over the course of the film felt very natural, a very natural extension.
Yeah,
and I really loved the pacing of it.
Well, and the throwbacks to the original film, the shots, of the original film, and starting with the end of the original film. Yeah, the continuity, the pacing of it, it was all really good.
One little thing that I also like that we didn't get to is when the local crowds, the young people, when they find out that their friends were killed,
the Myers
they go
house.
and start to trash the Myers house.
Yeah.
Which just seems like that would happen.
I have to say, I really enjoyed Dr. Loomis.
He's
I
great.
also enjoyed his historical tangents. They made me a little bit happy inside.
The history teacher inside you.
Yeah, and I like that he was like the voice in the dark that's like, dude, guys, for real, this is serious, and we're all about to die.
He gets much more manic in this film as opposed because he's seen these things that were just theoretical in his head are real. And it really motivates him. Like, he's got a great his development of that character is very logical.
Yes.
He is no nonsense. He's not going to let things get in the way. He does everything you would want somebody like that to do in those scenarios.
Which makes it also frustrates me because it means that the police officers aren't doing their jobs the way they should.
Well, it's a small town.
I know, but I feel like all of these movies always make the local sheriff's office look stupid.
Well, the sheriff from the first film, he was a skeptic, and then his daughter died, and then they basically phased him because he can't be running this operation right now. And his deputy who takes over is a little skeptical at first, but he basically gets to the point where it's like, I'm going to do what Loomis says. I may not like it, but we need to be careful.
Yeah.
Wasn't he just the guy who just hit the kid who just exploded into fiery death?
No, because he's riding with Loomis and tries to stop Loomis from shooting the kid, and it's one of the other deputies who's coming who hits him.
So that guy's on leave. Okay, got it.
Well, no, because he actually reappears in the movie.
Oh.
He's not on leave.
Wow.
Like,
Small town.
he's still working the rest of that night.
Poor guy with PTSD.
Standards were different back then.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts on this film?
No, liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was good. Again, if I was going to put a fictional character into my lineup of having to fight a serial killer, Dr. Loomis would be in my corner.
There you go. Well, I'm Rob.
I'm Nate.
I'm Melinda.
And this has been Rob and Nate Record a Podcast. And welcome back to a reoccurring segment.
Beverage time.
Yes. Not sponsored by the Root Beer Store.
No.
Again, these all have come from a local store called the Root Beer Store here in Utah, Sandy, Utah. Today's soda, Nate, you want to tell us a little... Well, I bought it, but you want to tell us, give us some impressions?
Peanut butter, old-fashioned soda. It's a rather generic label.
Yeah.
And it looks like polluted water.
Yeah, it's very opaque. It looks like creek water.
Yeah.
Well, it's not coming off very easily. There it goes. You excited about this?
I'm not expecting to like this.
Smells a little bit like peanut butter.
It smells enough like peanut butter that makes me uneasy. I'm going to be drinking this.
That doesn't really taste like peanut butter. I'm not even sure I would say that tastes like peanuts. Maybe the aftertaste
It's got
tastes
a little bit of a
bit,
peanut buttery aftertaste.
but going down, it doesn't taste like peanut butter.
It
It
tastes...
tastes like a shellfish.
Don't implant that in my brain. No, it tastes like the fluid in when you get a can of like clams,
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
which isn't as gross as it sounds like it should be.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this.
4 stars on the 10-star scale.
You're generous.
4 stars on the 10-star scale. Maybe 3.
Yeah.
What I was trying to communicate is it's just below being neutral.
See, to me, it's to even be neutral, it's got to taste like what it claims like. This doesn't taste anywhere remotely enough like peanut butter.
It's not a strong taste, which I was not expecting.
Yeah.
I was expecting it would be kind of overpowering.
I expected that going down it would at least taste like peanuts. I'm not sure that doesn't.
I would still say that is a peanut butter soda.
Yeah. It's not one I'm going to buy again. How about you?
No, I may finish this glass.
You know, it kind of makes me wish that we had tasted Kitty Piddle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, anyways.
And so I think up to Halloween 5, they're pretty much the same. And then like Halloween 6 takes like 2 and 3. Or Halloween 7 takes like 1 and 2 as canon, but not all the others. And then they did another Halloween in 2018 that only takes 1, the original, as canon, and then does 40 years later.
That's the like Jamie Lee Curtis
That's the
one,
most
right?
recent Jamie Lee Curtis one. So they're going to make 2 more sequels to that.
It'll be interesting to proceed down this franchise.
There's a lot of people wish they would do something similar with the Star Wars movies. They're just like, I didn't like that last Star Wars movie. Let's make another version. Or Game of Thrones. Oh, season 8. Nah.
Yeah.
That's not canon.
Make the fan
Make the fan film.
Yeah, the fan fiction. Okay.
Only they can get a couple $1 billion on GoFundMe.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Not really.
No.
I did when they were trying to take Loomis. So the governor's tried to say Loomis can't be here because he's going to undercut the credibility of our rehabilitation initiatives, which apparently the governor's for. So that governor would have been James R. Thompson, Republican, who would have been up for re-election the following week.
Yeah.
And would win that re-election.
Governor of Illinois.
Governor of Illinois at the time.
Huh.
Did
they reference the actual governor?
No, they didn't. They just said
They
the
just
governor.
said the governor?
It's the way my brain works. It wants to know, okay, well, what governor?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting timing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they would have recalled him because his presence there would have hurt his re-election chances.
Yeah.
Yeah. No vote by mail back then.
That's true.